All right, good morning, folks. Good morning, and welcome to the Saturday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show here at AM 830 WCRN and their affiliates. And of course, we are live streaming on the TuneIn app. So just punch WCRN in, and you can take us anywhere. It's a great little device. I love those apps on the phone. You can tell Alexa, "Hey, play WCRN." She'll do that, no questions asked. And we are also live streaming. Actually, we're doing a new thing where we are doing a platform that we should be streaming to the Joe Mangiacotti page. It might actually, and unfortunately for this, I think it might just be my personal page for us. I don't think we have to figure out how to jump that over. Anyway, that's happening. And we're also live on Twitter. Yes, it sends it to Twitter and YouTube as well. Point is, you have the audio in any one of those locations. Check it out. Let me know if you can see it and listen on YouTube or Twitter, for that matter. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. That's 508-871-7000. That is our line for two-way talk and conversation. We have a text line. Our text line is real simple. That's 617-297-8388, 617-297-8388. You can text me like you text your buddy to grab a beer. It's the same principle. And it shows up on the screen here in the studio. As a matter of fact, if you can't text, but you can email, if you email me at exactly what you're doing, text Joe on the radio at gmail.com, it appears on the same screen. So that's pretty good. And a reminder, because I opened that up this morning, as I do every Saturday, Sunday morning, and Mondays at 1 o'clock. And there's all kinds of emails that should be going to the office. Use joemshow@gmail.com, folks, and I'll actually see it before Saturday morning. That's the way it works there. And there's also actually and good morning, Russ.
Good morning, Joe. How are you?
I'm good. Now there's actually there's an app just to stream WCRN.
I was just going to ask you on the air if you did get that.
I did. I have it, and I didn't know that it existed. And to tell you the truth, I haven't actually ask the boss what the deal is with that company.
I don't know either. I mean, it was posted on my app.
And you found it. See what the deal was about. Yeah. All right.
Now I find another way besides the unit app. Sometimes I can see that also besides the additional
Right. Well, I think what I'll do is, folks, I'll put up the link on my Facebook page, and then you can actually have the exclusive WCRN app. All right, so you can reach the show off here, like I said. Use that email, joemshow@gmail.com, and you can reach our office directly when I'm not on the air at 508-603-9778. All right, good Saturday morning lineup. Jerry Doherty, you might expect him. He won't be in today. We will be going through, but in the second hour, we will be joined by an interesting character. His name's Rick Maida. Rick is a candidate, actually, for the congressional seat in New Jersey. But Citarelli, he conceded in the New Jersey governor's race yesterday. This was a very close race. And we're going to talk with Rick a little bit about what happened in New Jersey. From where I sit, the GOP might have let it slip by. I think they might have just thought that there was no chance, or they didn't put the resources into it. And as a guy who ran as a Republican and dealt with the state GOP, I got to tell you, sometimes they can be frustrated. A lot of people are frustrated with the GOP. How they work and where they decide to put their resources. And if they don't think that it's a slam dunk for you, a lot of times it would be okay. Hey, just my opinion, but I think a lot of people would back me up. Where's Jeff Deal? Let's give him the deal. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. So we'll talk with Rick Maida, congressional candidate in New Jersey. about the New Jersey governor's race, the election down there. Everybody's talking about, of course, Virginia and what went on there. And there's a big story with the school board out in Arizona. But I wanted to play this because, I come in and I said, I got to play this for people because they may not have heard this. It's a good thing. And sometimes you get up into the news and the calls, and I forget to play it, or we don't get to it. So before we get too far into it, I do want to play this. Now, this is a Colorado parent, a father. He happens to be a black male addressing the Colorado, a school board, or actually a ballot question, I guess, is up for debate. It has to do with CRT and that being taught. So he does this fantastic job as a black father explaining to the dopes and the school boards why parents are rejecting this and why this has become the third rail when it comes to school politics. Russ, let's play cut 7 of this gentleman in Colorado. Now, sit. 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 Down. Now. Sit. Now. Down. Down. Let it die the death it deserves. This guy nailed it. He nails it. He said it a little more eloquent than I probably said it in the past. But basically, I've talked about this, folks. This country is not systemically racism. I know that you're going to give me the argument about highways and redlining and things of that nature. But when you have two children, two little babies, as he put it, or a couple kids in the sandbox, they don't give 2 cents as to what color they are, or their hair type, or their eye color, or anything of that nature. They pay no attention to this. It has to be taught or shown or through osmosis. But now we have people in our society who want to, like he said, they want to fan the flame of racism. They don't want to let it just die and move forward. He said it. He travels coast to coast. He's treated with dignity and respect. Because despite what the media and certain activists want you to believe, that's not what people are thinking about. That's not what's on people's mind. What's on their mind is whether they can afford the gas to get back and forth to work. Can they provide at least a couple decent meals and not just pasta for their family? These are kitchen table issues. That's what's on their mind, especially today. And here we are in the holiday season. So this guy nails it. Absolutely nails it. Now that brings us to New York City and Mayor-elect Eric Adams. Now he won, as I think he should have won. And he won, and that is very much a statement on the Democratic policies, just like Virginia was. Because he was the law and order mayoral candidate. Not to mention the fact that he was a New York police officer. But and by the way, Eric Adams himself is a victim of police brutality in his history. So I think this guy knows from which he speaks. So one of the things that Eric Adams, Mayor-elect Eric Adams in New York City is talking about is the restoration of the anti-crime unit. New York City had these undercover squads, and they were very effective dealing with the gangs and getting guns off the street, actually getting guns off the street. That's a direct solution to the problem. Are you going to get them all up? I know before you start sending me texts like I'm an idiot and I don't know this. There are hundreds of millions of guns in this country, billions of rounds of ammunition. Matter of fact, that's one of the arguments that you propose to people who are like, yeah, guns, we gotta get rid of the guns. Can't do it. Can't put that genie back in the bottle because sorry, no, it's cliche, folks, right? If you outlaw guns, only the outlaws will have guns. Because those of us that are law-abiding citizens that follow the law and go through all of the classes and licensing procedures and background checks and everything you're supposed to do, will follow the law. So you're just disarming the citizenry, the responsible citizenry. You know, those that say, join the NRA for responsible gun ownership, where they're taught and learn how to handle the firearm safely, how to clean it, how to store it, what the laws are. So now you have Mayor-elect Eric Adams, and one of the things he talks about is bringing back the anti-crime unit. And that would go a long way. It was a stupid move by de Blasio, of course, but there's too many of those to count them. So we're going to do cut 2 in a second here, Russ, but we have this Jamoke, Hawk Newsom, who is apparently the co-founder of New York's BLM chapter, Black Lives Matter chapter. Now this guy, from all outward appearances that you can find on him, he's a con artist, he's a punk. He's never really accomplished anything of seriousness. I guess he had this charity that the IRS stripped him of because it was a con job out of his mom's basement or something. And he's just a joke. And he walks around all in black with these talons on, right? And he got a little bit of power. He jumped on this bandwagon, got involved with BLM, And like so many before him, the Al Sharptons of the world and so forth, once they realize they can tap in to the black culture and maintain that power and make some coin off it, they'll do it. So now he is, and you're going to listen to him talk, but I want you to pay attention when he says this is not a threat, because this is nothing but a threat. And as far as I'm concerned, when you lay out ultimatums and a threat like this, that has crossed, that's a yelling fire in the theater when it comes to free speech. Cut two, this is New York BLM co-founder Hawk Newsom. Again, a punk. First, he's threatening the mayor-elect that we have people at City Hall. We've got operatives, we've got sleeper agents, we've got people at City Hall who can make your life hell. We will mess you up in your administration. We'll take to the streets, riots, fire, threatening to burn the city, bloodshed. In any other circumstance, that's an assault. You're threatening bloodshed and fire. That's arson, by the way. And as a side note, we've had that for 18 months. Remember last summer, the summer of love, in peaceful protest, with dumpster fires, courthouses being set on fire with police officers in them, police officers and innocent civilians being hit in the head with brick and cans of peas and frozen ice bottles. So we've already had that, Jamal. Mayor-elect Adams responded to him. Now, I'll give him credit because I don't think he should. When he comes out with that threatening violence and bloodshed, I don't think that Mayor-elect Adams should give him the time of day. If he can't act like a civilized human being, why respect him? You've just threatened this man's administration and to cause riots, fire, and bloodshed in the city. You don't deserve a seat at the table. Mayor-elect Adams responded. Cut one on that, Russ. Got that lined up? Mayor Eric Adams. It's silly to New Yorkers. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You're threatening with something we've already lived through. These movements have lessened, have crashed property values, have made people live in fear, right? They're coming out. In the city's advice to these things is to, be aware of your surroundings and, maybe don't wear your jewelry and nice things out in public or let them be seen through windows of your car or your house. I mean, that is worse than Jimmy Carter telling you to put a sweater on because you can't afford to heat your home. So it's not the criminal that's the problem. You're the problem, as always. So here he is waging war on police. And this has been the manifesto of the BLM chapter in New York. This guy this punk Newsom wants to wage war on police with highly trained military armor, BLM. He thinks that that's what they should have. And nobody wants to go back to the Dickens days in New York either. And you have people like de Blasio who tie the police's hands. And we do need to go back to safety in Giuliano type days. And maybe Eric Adams is the guy who can do it. But he sat down with these guys. And there was actually play cut 3, because this is taken from a meeting with Newsom and his sister and some other people. And by the way, it's up. If you go to my Facebook page, you can find this. And within the article on this is the video clip from whatever, TikTok or media, but it's inserted in there that somebody ran and talking with him. And he straight out says, you know, cops, all cops are no good. So he paints the police with this broad stroke of the brush, the exact same thing that he accuses police of doing, and that's called profiling. And this is the conversation that I want you to listen to how he talks. And Eric Adams is sitting there at the table. And one of the other things, if you watch the video, in the posse or whatever you want to call it, the group of people sitting there, now they're sitting down with the mayor-elect in the largest city, one of the largest cities, I don't know if LA is bigger right now, but largest city in America. And then one of the guys is all hoodie up, covering his face, and they just, I know it doesn't mean, but it bothers me that you don't have enough respect, that you're in City Hall, sitting down with the mayor-elect. The man's about to be sworn in as mayor of the largest city in the country. You show up to a meeting appropriately dressed, show a little respect. You know, this isn't, I don't know what it is, or what they think they're at. Play cut 3, and listen to what he says. All right. We don't believe in good cops. So this punk Newsom's coming from the perspective that there just is no such thing as a good cop. That all, right, ABC, ACB, you see that on tags and stuff, all cops are the B word. And so this guy doesn't even believe that a good cop exists. Now there is one thing he says, but it already is the way. It's already in the law. And I agree, and cops agree. I mean, nobody stood up for Chauvin for what he did. But he also makes reference to Trayvon Martin. And this is a thing that this movement and the left does all the time, right? They refer to something, a case, that is just false in its narrative. The whole hands up, don't shoot. Absolute fabrication. When you have a situation, and I go back to, and I've said this before, at what point does an incident become racist when race isn't the issue in it? In other words, if somebody is involved in a confrontation with the police and they happen to be black, does it automatically make it racist? Can someone of color have an interaction with the police, and it's just that, an interaction with police, and there's not a racial component? Because many of the times, the officer involved happens to be a black officer or officer of color. So he makes this reference to Timber Martin, and I don't know what his point is, because I'm sure he's referring to the false narrative surrounding Trevor. So anyway, that's going to wrap up the first segment here of the Saturday morning edition of Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN from the Boxstar Middlesex Mattress Outlet Studios. I'm Joe Mangiacotti. We've been checking with Out with Joe, pay a couple bills. We'll be back on the other side. We'll go to the phones. Thanks for holding, guys. I'm Joe Mangiacotti, and this is AM 830 WCRN.
What's the next clip that you want? So I can cue it.
Hold on.
We've already had that.
All right, so that's not going. What's going on here?
Mayor Elect Adams responded to it now.
It's not using the right microphone.
Part of Plymouth, Massachusetts, looks just like it did in the 17th century. Modeled after an English village and a Wampanoag home site, the historic attraction at Plymouth Plantation stays true to its historic roots. And if you want to go way back to the original Thanksgiving table, you can. Guests can order tickets as early as June to attend a Thanksgiving dinner complete with authentic courses like corn pudding and fish fricassee, tales of colonial life, and centuries-old songs you can sing in if you want to. Now, presidents originally had to declare Thanksgiving a holiday every year. However, Jefferson refused to recognize the event, so he thought strongly that the separation of church and state applied here. And since Thanksgiving involved prayer and reflection, the president thought making it a national holiday would be in violation of this. He also thought it was better suited as a state holiday, not a federal one. He never really explained himself to the public on that one, though. Here's an interesting fact. We're all used to Thanksgiving being the fourth Thursday of the month. However, in 1939, Thanksgiving was celebrated on the third Thursday in November, not the fourth. So you might think that President Roosevelt could predict the future because he channeled his Black Friday mentality into celebrating Thanksgiving on the third. So he bumped up the shopping days by 7 days by doing that. But that also angered football coaches who had Thanksgiving games scheduled that became regular weekday games, and calendars were already printed now with the incorrect dates. So Americans, to say the least, did not love this change. So it was officially and legally switched back in 1942. Now, those turkeys that are pardoned by the president, some go on to do some pretty cool things. See, President George H.W. Bush pardoned the first turkey in 1989 after he noticed the 50-pound bird at his official Thanksgiving proclamation looked a little antsy. Every president has upheld the tradition to this day. But what happens to that lucky bird that gets to squawk another day? Well, in 2005 and 2009, the turkeys went to Disneyland and Walt Disney World parks to serve as Grand Marshal in their annual Thanksgiving Day parades. And from 2010 to 2013, they vacationed at Washington's Mount Vernon State. Well, that will do it for now, but more interesting facts and Thanksgiving history on OutWithJoe.com. So from the Cantiani Insurance Studios, I'm Joe Mangiacotti, and this is Out with Joe.
This is Sean Burke, president of the Licensed Private Detectives Association of Massachusetts, asking you to visit us at lpdam.org when you think you need a private investigator. Don't let your emotions negatively affect your future. Get your answers through a Massachusetts licensed private investigator. Get the facts without risking your credibility by unknowingly committing a criminal offense. You need a license to perform investigations in Massachusetts. What are some types of work that requires a license? Any type of surveillance, interviewing someone for a third party, background and asset checks are just a few examples. For more on this, visit us at lpdm.org and tune into AM 830 WCRN Sunday mornings at 7:30 for case files from the LPDM or anytime at lpdmcasefiles.com.
We know why you're awake. Your child is about to get their driver's license. Levante's Auto School offers 1-week driving programs to help make sure your child stays safe and focused behind the wheel.
877 Drive Ed. Who's Ed? That's the number for Levante's Auto School.
Learn to drive safely and efficiently. Visit one of our 5 locations throughout Massachusetts. Click Levante'sAutoSchool.com.
Levante's Auto School shows you how to learn the rules and keep your cool. Call 877 Drive Ed. Who's Ed? That's the number for Levante's Auto School.
All right, folks, welcome back to the second half of the first hour of the Joe Mangiacotti Show from the Box Drop Middlesex Mattress Outlet Studios. I'm Joe Mangiacotti. You can join the conversation. Simply dial 508-871-7000, 508-871-7000. Don't forget our text line is up and running, which means you can text into the show like you would anybody else in real time. It appears on the screen, and you can do that just at 617-297-8388, 617-297-8388. If you can't text, just simply email me at textjoeintheradio@gmail.com. It appears on the same screen. All right, let me go to the phones, 508-871-7000 to reach the studio for two-way talk and conversation. Richard, thank you for holding. I appreciate that. Richard in New Hampshire. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Joe. Joe, I'd like to talk about what's going on now with the children being vaxxed.
Yeah.
I just seen the mother. She had a 12-year-old daughter vaxxed. She is totally paralyzed now. 12 years old. She's having a hard time breathing. I mean, she's not on a ventilator or anything like that. She's in a wheelchair. And I'm just saying to myself, Joe, when a parent's going to, either smarten up, find out what's going on with these vaccines instead of trusting the government?
Well, this is the thing that I'm wondering, Richard, right? Because in any other circumstance, if you were going to threaten somebody's child or possibly hurt them, most parents would protect their child. They would flip out, right? They would not allow any harm to happen. And when and I can't say this enough, folks, I've said it many times before, please go to the VAERS site just to educate yourself, understand. And as a parent, you should have the decision as to whether you want to put your child at risk. We know that if a child does contract the virus, their survival rate is basically 99.99%.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So that is, and then they have natural immunity. So I know this becomes this big issue. I'll probably get, YouTube will get all, they removed one of the shows already because they didn't like this discussion. But the whole point here, folks, and I think eventually a lot of this, the courts are going to rectify it. All right?
I hope so.
I hope so. I hope that's the case because we have and this has always been the story in life, Richard, isn't right? We give up because of fear, a little fear, and we willingly give our rights up. After 9/11, we were very fearful that something like that could happen again. And the Patriot Act has come in and has been renewed time after time. And now we have the Fed saying, you know what? We're going to look at no warrants, no probable cause, no reason whatsoever, but we're going to look at your bank accounts. And we're going to know every transaction. And I'm an investigator. I use people's ATM and credit card statements and bank accounts on a regular basis. You can you can actually piece somebody's day together and their life together if you have that data. Yeah. You know where they shop, what they like, what they buy. It's an overreach. It's a gross violation of our privacy, and it violates our Constitution. When we talk about illegal search and seizure, and this isn't it is concerning people, but they don't leave it alone. They have to be stopped, and we got to hope the court comes around and starts slapping them down when they're out of control, and they are out of control.
Oh, yeah, they are, big time. The other thing, too, Joe, that people don't understand or realize, all right, and this might be a shocker to a lot of people that when I get the jab, the stab, all right? If you go to give blood, Joe, people who have had the vax cannot give blood. Were you aware of that, Joe?
No,
You
I
can't.
did not.
You
So,
can't. You
so
can't
if
because
you have the RMNA into you, they do not want your blood, is what you're saying.
they do not want your blood because, first of all, there's a protein, a spike protein, crystals. They put cancer cells in your shot. I mean, people, you have to find out what the hell's in these things. How about Lucifer A's? How would that be that you're putting that in your arm? Okay. And you know why they give you the shot in the arm, Joe? They give you the shot in the arm because it goes directly into your bloodstream. But if you took it, like a liquid, it would have to go through your liver, and your liver would cleanse all the poison and toxins that's in there. That's why they put the shot in your arm, people. They bypass your liver.
So what are you saying, that the government is poisoning, intentionally poisoning?
Oh, yes,
us?
they are. That's 100% poison. There's graphene oxide, which is a poison. I mean, there's Lucifer A's, which I don't know what the hell that is, Joe.
Are you saying
And
Lucifer AIDS?
Lucifer A's, ASE, Lucifer A's. Check it out. It's in the Pfizer shot, and it's in the Go. You can go to BitChute and check it out. There's Dr. David Martin. I don't know if you heard of him. You heard of him, Joe?
Yeah, actually, I did. I'm
really
actually
sharp.
making a notes to myself. But
he's sharp. He knows.
The bottom line is, again, I don't believe. It's just it doesn't make sense to me. My gut feeling is, constitutionally, I don't believe that the government should have the right to force you to put anything into your body.
They don't,
and they're doing it, and we have to stop. And we have these. The court, right? One of the courts in Texas was Fifth, I think, Circuit.
New Orleans.
All right, but it's out of the Texas case on the mandates. They put a stay on it, and the Biden administration wants to ignore it.
Yeah,
this is a rogue administration. These people disregard the Constitution at every turn. Wait till we get to what's going on in Arizona and the school board out there. I don't know if you heard that story. We're talking about overreach. The point is, it's out of control. They really think that we're already in this dictatorial, socialist regime, that it's just the government absolutely controls your life, and they want you to be dependent on it. And you can't tell, right? These jamokes who thinks all they're capable of thinking about the next stimulus check, and I'm getting paid to stay home. I don't have to go to work, and they want to get dependent. And what they don't understand is, once you're all dependent, and there's way more people, right, out of the wagon than pulling the wagon, then the government's going to say, well, we're going to start cutting your check down, your benefits, your health care. Yeah, you get free health care, but it takes you 18 months to get a checkup. Forget an appointment for dental work. You're going to live in this, something that's out of Cold War USSR movie, right? The plaster falling off the wall and no hot water, because who are you going to go to?
There's nobody.
Right? There is no job for you. You can't improve yourself. Capitalism has been destroyed, which is the only thing that has ever pulled millions of people up out of poverty is capitalism. So you got to follow this through. And a couple of years ago, I was walking on one of these, I think it was in Worcester, at the street, art on the street thing or something like that. And I came across the Young Socialist booth and the kid at the thing. And I said, okay, socialism, tell me about it. What is it? And he's, telling me how great this is and all this, and a couple questions, and he doesn't know where to go. The question was simple question, Richard. Where does the money come from?
Yeah.
Well, the government. Okay. Does the government have money? Well, yeah. Well, where does it come from? Taxes. Okay. So taxes come from who, kid? Well, the people. Yeah. All right. So if you're not working and everybody's getting a check and living, who's paying taxes? It took a little walkthrough, but he kind of got to the point where it's like, wait a minute, this isn't making sense to me now.
I know.
So it's crazy stuff, Richard.
It is.
But good point on the child vaccination. I think parents. Thank you. I think parents need to stand up and look out for their children and say, no. You know what? when they're 18, they can fight their own battle. But until that point, I'm responsible for their lives, their health, their safety, to feed them, to clothe them, to shelter them. And I don't want that poison, or I don't want anything forced into my child. And especially something, I don't care that there's approvals and so forth, people. This is not a long time in the world of medicine and vaccinations and chemicals. This is not a long time. And we have, if you go to VAERS, you have a huge record of the side effects, and you should just know what they are. I'm not anti-vax at all. I'm anti-mandate. It's the mandate, folks. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. Ken in Bolton, been waiting patiently. Thank you, Ken. Good morning, sir.
Morning, Joe. There's just so much going on. I'm just going to go with the flow. I know you started the first half hour talking about what's going on in New York City.
Oh, this Jamoke, this guy, Hawk Newsom, is a punk. He's a con man, and he's got this power by happenstance, as far as I'm concerned, because I don't think he's a brilliant person. But I got to tell you, you heard the clip. He threatened what? Violence, blood in the street, fires, riots. Why would you, as a mayor, sit down with somebody who just threatened your city and your personal administration? Because what did he say? We have people in City Hall who can mess him up.
Well, the bottom line is the radical left has been given carte blanche, and this is what we're ending up with, and they're exposing themselves. We don't have to warn people anymore. It's like, hey, did you see this? Did you see that? Are you keeping up with the news? And if you're not keeping up with what's going on here, you're the wrong source.
And Ken, the thing, you look at Virginia, right? And there were people that, I hate the AOCs of the world, who look at what happened there and they don't actually get the message. What is their response? Their response is, we have to go further left. We didn't do it hard enough. You see, the people that just too stupid, we have to drill this into them until they realize how right we are, how stupid and ignorant they are. So we have to even double down, and we didn't get the word out that this is actually really good for them. That was their response. Whereas most other Democrats go, yikes, hey, why don't we listen? Now, within the Democratic Party, Ken, what's going on? We've got the moderate, right? The moderate Democrats are trying to rebrand themselves. They want to rebrand themselves as normal. Have you seen this? This is now they want to be called normal Democrats, because they've recognized that the party as a party has gone so extreme left and ridiculously out of control, they don't want to be associated. And the word moderate isn't even cutting it. So they don't even want moderate to be associated because it's too far left. They want to be relabeled, rebrand themselves as a normal Democrat. I don't know if you caught that, but this is a rebranding.
I haven't heard that yet.
Pardon me?
Things are happening so fast.
Yeah. Oh, I know, right?
So here's the point. I kind of like to lead up to who you got coming up for the next hour, and postpone talking about Rittenhouse till tomorrow, because that's
I'll touch a little bit on it, but I could do hours on this thing. That I got to watch a lot of it. It was riveting. I was at the dentist on Thursday, and I had the earbuds in and had it running on my phone, and I'm texting like lawyer friends of mine, political friends. I'm like, are you watching this? It's riveting. And they put him on the stand. You've got the judge who, like 3 times on Thursday, sent the jury into the library for tongue lashings to this prosecution. And I've spent a lot of time in courtrooms, right? Not as a defendant, folks. I'm a private investigator. I own an agency. You have to be in court a lot. I've sat in court a lot of times. I've watched a lot of trials. You don't see judges get as pissed off as this guy was very often. You don't see it. And in the prosecution, he knew he lost his case. I mean, when he shot 3 guys, and the one that he didn't kill on the stand, and the prosecution couldn't believe. I mean, when they ever said, so when he shot you, you had your pistol in your hand, pointed at his head, and you were advancing towards him when he shot you. Yes. And the prosecutor, I mean, he just puts his head in his hands and shakes it. And at that point there's nothing wrong with the prosecution saying, Your Honor, with, new evidence has come to light, we're not going to pursue this, and drop the darn thing. They indicted him 48 hours after the incident for political reasons. They had
Joe.
no evidence. They hadn't gathered none of the facts yet, Ken. Go ahead.
And Joe, the guy who you just described, Grosskreutz, he's hard to pronounce, admitted to that. Then did you catch the stunt he pulled on GMA?
No.
So he goes on Good Morning America and tells a totally different tale, and they suck it up.
Isn't it amazing because I have to
living
channel
in
surf because of this job. I don't just watch Fox and I mean I jump over to CBS, ABC, Newsman, MSNBC, CNN. You got to see what they're doing, and you're like, oh my God, these people are in a different world when they're describing. And I've got a thing of the I got phone calls, but at one point I'm going to play like a little potpourri of Paul Butler on the Joy Reid show and Joy Behar talking about when he was crying. Also, just the left's like portrayal of him. It's ridiculous, but I've got full line, so I'll try to get that in though.
Portrayal would be what I call now from now on Lemonhead LeBron James. I'm never using the word LeBron again. He's a lemonhead in my mind.
Yeah, he's yeah, I'm not thrilled with this guy. He's an idiot as well.
Real quick, before you get to other calls, yeah, the guy from New Jersey bringing on, we need to push as many candidates as we can in New England to get to Congress. We can get at least 4 seats. We need to be aggressive.
Well, I'm gonna have the guy running with the Republican running or who hopes to be running against McGovern in the Worcester district. He's out of Shrewsbury. We'll have him on.
Joe, my district 3.
Three?
District 3. Go ahead. We're going to get Trey in. And obviously, Pappas is going to be gone in New Hampshire. We should get somebody from Maine that's going to take out, I'm forgetting the guy in Northern. But he's very vulnerable. There's at least 4 seats that can be taken in New England.
Yeah. And this is something I said this a couple of weeks ago. I said it after Virginia, folks. This is not GOP national guys. This isn't a pick off a point here and a point there. This has to be a 50-state assault on these seats. Right now, the GOP was in an interview the other day. She was saying that the head that they have 14 targeted races that they should be targeted them all. But there's 14 that they're specifically. So, they can flip the House with 4? I think it just takes 4 of them or 3 of them because it's a 7.
I heard the numbers that they're targeting is in the 60s. It should be 75 to 100 because that's what we can do.
Oh yeah, flip. But what I'm saying is GOP can take control of the House with only like 3 seats.
Oh, I know, but we're going to go way past
there's going to be a red tidal wave, and the Senate will bounce as well. Hey, I got to run though, Ken. Thank you so much for the call. Good points. All right, folks, 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. The Joe Mangiacotti Show from the Box Shop Middlesex Mattress Outlet Studios. Let's go to the phones. Mark in Worcester, who's been waiting patiently, and I appreciate that, Mark. Good morning, sir. You look marvelous.
No problem, my man. It's good to be on Radio Free America.
Yeah, it is actually.
And you are Radio Free America within the state of Massachusetts because you talk about things the mainstream media will not touch with a 10-foot pole. And I appreciate you doing that.
Thank you.
The main subject I want to bring up is Project Veritas.
See the stunt they pulled on this guy?
From what I understand, the feds conducted a raid on the home office of Project Veritas last week. Have you heard about that? You didn't hear about it on the mainstream media.
They're not touching it because they thought that they might have had Biden's daughter's diary. Because it's not even confirmed if it was stolen. She may have just left it behind somewhere. But they raid this guy's house, right? They raided Giuliani's house. But meanwhile, right, crime is happening all over the place, but this is where the resources are.
Yeah. Why did they raid Project Veritas?
Oh, Biden's daughter's diary was looking for her diary, Mark.
And why were they looking for her diary?
Oh, goodness. Because I think they're afraid of what might be in it. That's obvious.
Like what?
Oh, you tell me. Pick something. God knows.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now it's been missing a long time. This isn't just happened, Mark. This diary hasn't been, its location hasn't been known for a while. And for some reason they've decided that this guy from Project Veritas.
How many times does the New York Times have to redact a story?
Well, almost it's a given. Usually when they write a story, they probably need to redact it shortly after.
How many times does Project Veritas have to retract a story?
Never.
But yet they're getting raided by the Fed.
Yeah.
Maybe they're looking for something else besides
absolutely.
their diary. Huh?
Oh, I think a lot of that might have to do with any excuse to get into a Project Veritas person's home computers. They'll take it because you don't know what they're working on. I gotta tell you, Mark, Project Veritas, if this was the Cold War, espionage stuff, man, they would be spycraft. What they pull off. Remember the things they've come up with, the selling the aborted baby parts, the investigations they've done. And they've done them well, and they've got their facts. They should be afraid of it because they, like you said or pointed out, they never have to retract because when they break a story, they have their facts. They never
had to retract the story.
Yeah, I agree.
Now the last case that Project Veritas was on was in the state of New Jersey elections. Do you remember that?
Yeah,
Project Veritas.
Yeah, because they had this
undercover
Irish guy.
Irish guy.
He pretended to be.
He pretended to be an Irish guy. I'm doing this more for the benefit of your listeners than I am for you because you're more informed than the average person is. So this guy goes into he's in the state of New Jersey. He's working for Project Veritas, undercover reporter, investigative reporter. Now, those guys now today in mainstream media, they're as rare as steam locomotives. So he goes in to the voting place. He talks to the woman who's at the desk. He says to her, this is in the state of New Jersey. He says, I'm not I'm an American citizen. I'm not an American citizen. Well, she says, no problem. Yeah. And he says, well, I'm not registered to vote. She says, no problem. We can get and it's all on audio tape.
Yep.
Project Veritas. 3 days, last week, they get raided by the Fed. What a coincidence. Nothing on the corrupt mainstream media. Nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. A good point tying that in. Very true. Very true. And I watched that what you described for the listeners. Thank you. And it was unbelievable because everything they were doing is absolutely against the law. It is straight there in black and white that you cannot give a ballot to a non-citizen. And the guy admitted he's not a citizen. Like, you got to go watch it. I put it on my Facebook page, folks, so you can go check it out. Good point, right? You're drawing that point. You connected that dot. That shortly after that.
He said, she asked him, she said, you're not a citizen? He says, no. He says, I'm here. I'm for Ireland on a work visa.
Oh, and they said, that's all we need.
Yeah. That's cool. You can fill out a ballot.
Yeah,
it's on the Project Veritas website, and then just lo and behold, they get raided by the Feds.
Beautiful.
And they went through it. From what I understand, they went through it with a vacuum cleaner.
Unbelievable.
They were looking for anything. Unbelievable. Unbelievable is right. I just wanted to bring that up. Have a
Thank you,
good one.
Mark. I appreciate it.
Yep.
All right, man. We got to take a break here. Take a 7:00 break. Come back on the other side with our guest, Rick Maida, who's a congressional candidate in New Jersey, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. And I'll bring up that Veritas project with him as well. Might as well ask his take on that, plus his candidacy. So this is the Joe Mangiacotti Show from the Box Drop Middlesex Mattress Outlet Studios and flagship station WCRN, AM 830, 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. Stick with us. We'll be back on the other side, folks.
WACE Chicopee and WCRN Worcester.
7:00. Hey, folks, Joe Mangiacotti from the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. Reminding you, talk radio is the immune system to the partisan bias, political rhetoric attacking us on a daily basis. Get inoculated. The Joe Mangiacotti Show is your vaccine. Join me weekend mornings, 6 to 8. Hi, I'm Joe Mangiacotti, and you probably recognize me from the radio, or at least my voice, maybe from this station you're listening to now. And if you don't know, over my 30-plus years on the air, I've been best known for the real estate, mortgage, and financial talk that I've done. And what you may not know is that I haven't just talked the talk, but I've walked the walk. You see, I've been a licensed real estate salesperson here in the Commonwealth since 1984. And my very first venture into talk radio in 1986 was actually a real estate talk show. So I just wanted to remind you, or maybe inform you, that if you're considering selling or purchasing a property or looking to invest in income-producing property, consider having a conversation. You won't just be tapping the 3+ decades of my experience with marketing, purchasing, investing, and even being a landlord, but that of the countless experts and professionals that I've had the privilege of interviewing, working with, and learning from. Think of the vast network and contacts you'd have access to. So before making a move, make a call. You can click joerealtors.com, find me on Facebook at Joe Realtors, or email me at cameoproperty@gmail.com, or just call direct to my cell, 508-969-1088. That's 508-969-1088. And listen to Heidi Sizza and myself on Handling Change.
If you were to ask any retiree in a word, they would tell you that retirement is all about income. Income in retirement is a permission slip to enjoy life. Income provides the freedom to spend money each month, knowing that more will arrive next month and the month after that. As important as it is to accumulate assets for your retirement, it's equally, if not more important, to maximize the income being generated from your assets. My name is Jerry Doherty, and my radio program, Making Money Last, has been heard right here on WCRN. Well, do you know if your retirement income is as high as it could be? Are you living off less than you should be? Well, I'd like to offer you a complimentary review to answer that very question. Simply call my office at 877-772-1776. I'm conveniently located right on Route 9 in Westboro. Again, my number is 877-772-1776. Let's increase your income today.
Hey folks, Joe Mangiacotti here, and I have recently purged and refreshed with new furniture and, most importantly, a new bed. We spend about a third of our life on our mattresses, and it's so vital we have the right one, and we don't break the bank to do that. I first bought a mattress from the big store the brothers used to own, and a power base that moved the head and feet, and then I met John, and I checked out his showroom at 50 Main Street in Ashland and online at boxdropmiddlesex.com, and ended up with a better mattress, a power base that also heats and massages, all for less than half of what I was going to spend at the other place. Box Drop is a discount mattress store, and John specializes in clearance and closeouts, and he buys directly from the manufacturer with a low overhead and just family employees, passing the savings on to you, and you can see it reflected in the price every day. Click boxdropmiddlesex.com or call John on his cell. This is his cell number, 508-579-9303. That's 508-579-9303. And you can find John on Facebook at Box Drop Middlesex. John loves referrals, and this is the best referral I've given so far this year. Dropboxmiddlesex.com.
This is Sean Burke, president of the Licensed Private Detectives Association of Massachusetts, asking you to visit us at lpdam.org. when you think you need a private investigator. Don't let your emotions negatively affect your future. Get your answers through a Massachusetts licensed private investigator. Get the facts without risking your credibility by unknowingly committing a criminal offense. You need a license to perform investigations in Massachusetts. What are some types of work that requires a license? Any type of surveillance, interviewing someone for a third party, background and asset checks are just a few examples. For more on this, visit us at lpdm.org and tune into AM 830 WCRN Sunday mornings at 7:30 for case files from the LPDM or anytime at lpdmcasefiles.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to the second hour of the Saturday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show from the Box Drop Middlesex Mattress Outlet Studios. I'm Joe Mangiacotti. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. That's 508-871-7000. And don't forget, we have our text line up and running. That's simple to do. Just text at 617-297-8388. 617-297-8388. If you can't text, but you can email, you can actually email just what you're doing. Text Joe on the radio at gmail.com. Appears on the same screen in real time. So that's all good. Actually, we have a couple texts coming into the text line. And I don't know why it's O'Keefe is suing New York, NYT, FBI leaked raid into NYT. Sources on Dan Bongino. All right, so good. They should be stepping back. Project Veritas has done a great job. How about that? So we have a text coming in that something in that diary we were talking about. We'll get into that in a moment. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. As promised, we're going to be joined by Rick Maida, who is a Republican, and he's running for the U.S. 7th Congressional District in New Jersey. And let me welcome into the conversation. Rick, good morning, sir.
Hey, good morning, Joe.
Thanks for joining us early on a Saturday morning, but I'm suspecting if you're running a campaign, you're already up.
That's right. We're up all hours, running up and down the state and, fighting for the people here in New Jersey.
So let's we'll get into your race in a second, Rick, if that's okay, because yesterday we had the Republican candidate for governor, Ciccarelli, actually concede officially with just under a 3-point lead by the Democrat, which they thought, going into this, they really thought it was going to be a walk. And election night, I think they got a little nervous.
Yeah, listen, Jack's a good friend of mine. He ran a great campaign. And I'll tell you, we really woke up a lot of people across the country. I'd say New Jersey, Virginia are going to be bellwether states for what's foreshadowed, what's coming in 22 and 24. You got over 1.4 million Democrats more than Republicans. And it came down to just less than 70,000 votes between the difference. That means people are tired here in the state of New Jersey, this leftist socialist agenda that the Democrat Party has now become.
Yeah, and, of course, Virginia is a great bellwether for this, about what's to come. And what's interesting, Rick, is that you have some people in the Democratic Party who saw this happen, and their first thought is, well, we didn't hit it hard enough. We have to go more left, and we got to jam it down their throats. We got to really show them how they're ignorant and why we're right. How can you come away with that kind of an attitude when you saw what parents did and how the issues in the in the Virginia race galvanized people, and in the New Jersey race, what do you think? You're on the boots on the ground there. You're a candidate. You've been a candidate. You Jack Ciccarelli's a friend of yours. I didn't know that. What do you think was the reason? And when you go into politics, right, when you do the math for the campaign, right, they teach you the 10% crossover. You know what I'm saying? Right? I'm sure you've gotten all this. What do you think caused so many Democrats, 1.4 million outnumber the Republicans to cross over, because they had to have to get to that number, right? You don't lose by less than 3% if you don't have a bunch of Democrats voting for you in New Jersey.
Well, listen, Joe, I think a good representation of what happened in New Jersey, and I'll take away this race as a win. You know, it wasn't just about the governor's race. The real wins were at the local level. And let me tell you, we flipped 6 assembly seats and 3 Senate seats. We had huge wins at Republican because the average voter, the average American, the lower and middle class people who have to work hard and put food on the table and are tired of government telling them how to think and how to raise their children, they're the ones that stepped up. So these far left reaching politicians who are tone deaf and out of touch with the people and what it takes to have to raise the family in a high tax and a high regulation state. I mean, New Jersey is not much different than Massachusetts in that regard, where people are struggling, and 1/3 of our businesses have been shuttered by these ridiculous lockdowns and mandates that were unscientific and not evidence-based. People were sick of it and they're tired of it, and they spoke at the polling places this year. And that's why we galvanized a group of people that had not been in touch with the political side. And you had grassroots, issue-based people come to the polls and vote. And I'll tell you, in New Jersey, we vote with our hearts. You know, we don't necessarily vote party lines. They say it's a blue state, and next year they say it's a red wave. And I'll tell you what it is. It's a blue-collar wave. You know, the hardworking men and women in this state stepped up and stood up and said, enough is enough. And we flipped 9 seats in Trenton. In fact, I'd say the most remarkable race was my friend Ed Durr, Senator-elect, who took out one of the most powerful Democrats, the president of the Senate here in Trenton, New Jersey, took him out, spending less than $2,000. And I'll tell you, I think $70 of that was spent at Dunkin' Donuts. I mean, I'll tell you, really, you know, great guy, truck driver, father of 3, grandfather of 6, not a politician. The people of New Jersey are looking for authentic leaders, the ones that get it and have gone through the same issues that they're facing right now.
Rick, Ed Durr is he's a folklore now especially to us in Massachusetts, that an average blue collar guy like that knocked out this, you know, entitled long time career politician, right? We all fantasize about that from time to time. For when how many million? Like this guy spent a couple thousand. What did the incumbent spend?
Over $1 million.
$1 million for a state Senate seat. I mean, that's...
Boy, and this guy, you know, he's powerful, and we've had organizations, teachers unions, and others spend millions, multi-million dollars to try to take him out, and they couldn't do it. So it just goes to show you, you know, it comes down to just authentic leadership and listening to what the people want.
That is just, I mean, that's crazy, but great for him. And I saw one of the interviews, Rick, afterwards, when they said, okay, you know, you won this, you're senator elect. Now what are you going to do? And he said, I don't know. And I thought that was the best answer in the world, because you know what? It's okay sometimes to say, I don't know. Let's figure it out. I was good with that. Now, I know in politics, you probably taught you should never answer that question with, I don't know. But I thought it was perfectly fine. Yeah.
That's it. You know, it's just honest answers. That's what people want to hear. You know, if you yourself were put into that position, what would you say? I don't know. You know, we'll figure it out. And the best part, I love this. You know,
it's the dog who caught the car, Rick, you know?
That's right. That's right. You know?
I got the bumper. Now what do I do with the car?
That's right. You know, and the first thing that happened, the left started criticizing Ed, saying, well, this guy has no political career and no political experience. And, you know, the best answer he said, how much worse am I going to make it? And, you know, I love that. I'd love that, because there is, you know, New Jersey is broken right now. And, you know, we're very happy to have guys like Ed who are going to go in and fix it.
Yeah. Yeah. I got to tell you, that was a great thing. I saw his commercial shot, you know, probably with an iPhone or something. And, you know, coming out of the house, hopping on the bike and just talking to you like a normal person. And I thought it was great. And I don't think it was any, huge marketing thing drummed up in a room, a meeting room somewhere. I think it was just Ed Durr being Ed Durr, and that's it. And I think that's why he connected with people, Rick.
Yeah,
so
that's right. It's authenticity.
Can we talk about the election for a second? Because prior to you coming on, actually, we were talking, a caller brought up this Project Veritas, where they sent in one of their reporters as an Irish immigrant, or not even immigrant, Irish worker, right? Working here on a visa to work, not registered to vote, not a citizen, and they bend over backwards to give him a ballot. Have you seen this on Project Veritas?
Yeah, I caught parts of that. And then, listen, we were happy to have Mr. O'Keefe come to New Jersey and expose real corruption in the Murphy administration as well. And they're doing some good work there.
So when we look at the election itself, and when we first talked about you coming on, and he hadn't conceded yet, he decided to concede yesterday. Are there any irregularities concerning this election that people are questioning? Is there going to be any kind of a look into this, or does everybody believe everything was good?
Well, I'll be honest. I was a little surprised when Jack said he was going to concede. I mean, New Jersey is notorious for corruption, right? I mean, there's TV shows about it. And truthfully, there's two main reasons, and these are real surveys and polls that
You're talking about the Real Housewives of New Jersey show, right?
Yeah, right. It's a mix between that and The Sopranos, I suppose. And the truth is, there's two top reasons why more people leave New Jersey than any other state. It's high taxes and corruption. And we've had real cases of corruption that have been investigated and found where elections have been overturned. So, truthfully, when it came down to a slim margin, a razor-thin margin, less than 70,000 ballots went over, 3 million ballots or 2.5 million ballots were cast. I was surprised, that he conceded as quickly as he did. But, the truth is, we really don't know. We really don't know what whether it was fair, whether there was fraud. The understanding was that, it was evaluated and, there was no fraud found, but there was no audit, there was no recount. It does make me wonder what the future of election integrity is. Listen, this governor has been known to change the rules on how you vote at the last minute. Last year, I was the Republican nominee for United States Senate running against Cory Booker, and they changed the rules to have only vote by mail. Well, we know vote by mail, and they know this, favors Democrats. They have an infrastructure and machine. In fact, vote by mail is exactly what was found to be part of an investigation into election fraud, where there was vote by mail ballot harvesting just a couple of years ago here in New Jersey and Paterson. And so, it does raise a lot of questions. It doesn't sit right with the people. And same with this year, processes were changed, allowing for early voting at the last minute without proper procedures with the county officials.
Rick, can we back up for a second? Did you say that in the 2020 election, they changed the rules that you could only vote by mail-in? You couldn't actually go to a poll?
That's right. Yeah, they had provisional votes. Now, this is the hypocrisy of it. So you had to vote by mail. They did not allow for any machine voting. And if you didn't have a vote by mail ballot, or if your vote by mail ballot wasn't registered after you mailed it in into the system, then you can go to a polling place and fill out a paper ballot on site. Now, it's funny to me because these paper ballots take 5 to 10 minutes to fill out versus, 10 seconds at the machine. And the whole goal was to try to lower exposure rates of COVID. But yeah, they completely changed the rules at the last minute, not allowing for any machine voting.
Wow. I did not realize that. I mean, the big problem that we had, I think, across the board in 2020, Rick, was the number of voting regulations that were, well, quite frankly, unconstitutionally changed by governors and secretary of states with no state legislature approval or oversight. They just made these rules under the guise of it being an emergency situation and all of that. But boy, it opened the door for the possibility of not just fraud, but even mistakes. I know that you're not really familiar with this show, but I am so against the concept of ballot drop boxes. I mean, just the premise of that, you're putting a drop box somewhere on a street, like a mailbox, but nobody's watching it. Nobody can see who's driving up, how many ballots are being put into it at any given time. The chain of custody, if you will, is not there. Who's picking up those from there? On what conditions? Who's responsible? Who's taking it back? Who's got, like, there were just so many issues for something that's so important, meaning our vote. It just seems we're very, some of us are very sloppy with how we protect it.
Listen, I've been a big proponent of making sure that we have laws in place for election integrity, voter ID. I mean, it makes no sense to me in New York City, you got to show a vaccine passport and ID just to sit down and get a drink and eat a bite. But here in New Jersey, you can go to the polling stations and sign your name without having to show any proof of ID and vote, something that's so fundamentally and foundationally important for protecting our political process.
Going into this race, this election, was the state or national GOP, did they have any idea that the governor's seat was so in grasp? Did they think that it was a slam dunk for Murphy? It was going to, for the Democrat, and therefore we're not going to really spend a lot of time, energy, and effort. Whereas in Virginia, they did, and they also put a lot of security measures in. Right in Virginia, they had poll watchers and a team of lawyers standing by to challenge anything there. Did you do that in New Jersey, or did they think that the Democrat was so given that he was going to lose by a heck of a lot more than 3 points? What was it? What was the attitude going in?
Yeah, Joe, there were two different attitudes, one with the people in the state of New Jersey and two with the national optics. And so exactly to your point, I don't think that the national level gave New Jersey as much credit as it deserved. I do think that there was more attention given to Virginia, which meant more money and more resources. But the truth is here, boots to the ground. And look, Jersey's always been a bootstraps state, right? We got hardworking women and men. And so when you actually take a pulse and see how palpable the energy was at the ground level, you would know this race was close, so it was no surprise to the people of Jersey how close this race became without giving much credit to it. But, at the national level, they thought it was a blowout. And I'll tell you, even the pollster himself wrote an op-ed. Now, this is a Monmouth poll, which is normally gold standard for polling. Which, personally, I don't give much mind to ever, but, a lot of people do, and it does move it does influence people's opinion, admitted that he blew it. He said that Jack was going to lose by 11 points, double digits. They had him down at one point by 20 or 30. And I knew this when I ran against Cory Booker. The polls had me down by 38 points, and we got it within 15 in the middle of a pandemic. So we knew this race was a lot tighter, a lot closer than the national levels were giving it attention.
Right. That's it's got to be frustrating. Well, for Jack, obviously, but also for those voters who went out and did this. Now, there was something about the voting got stopped and then restarted again, and that makes everybody's eyes roll, Rick. Right? Because that seems to be when all of a sudden one candidate seems to be of the same party all the time, all of a sudden gets this click in numbers when voting resumes. What was going on in New Jersey with that?
Well, yeah, there were two major issues with that, Joe. So first, when the polls opened, I mentioned the governor changed the rules. So they instituted these new iPads that had to be connected to Wi-Fi. Well, there were certain polling places that didn't know that, weren't trained on that, and didn't have the Wi-Fi on. So there was a delay in the ability for people to come to the polls and vote. Now we know a higher percentage of Republicans vote at the poll versus vote by mail. That's true. So while we don't know if this disenfranchised, more Republicans than Democrats, but certainly it raises eyebrows that this happened. And the second major issue is that because the counties and the Board of Elections in each county, in each 21 county, weren't properly prepared, boy, oh boy, it took the longest time ever to count these ballots. And so on election night, Jack was up, like trending very closely. But then you had this huge influx of vote by mails that they allowed to come in that hadn't been accounted for, hadn't been counted, hadn't even been reported for people to know what was kind of outstanding and what was out there. So it took, 9+ days to complete counting. In fact, even to date, it's not done counting. It's just Jack had conceded.
How can they change the rules in the middle of the election?
You have a governor here in New Jersey that said that the Bill of Rights is above his pay grade.
Yes.
All right. He went on national
I remember
news,
that. And I'm like, fine, then leave the job. You're not qualified. You don't have the skill set. Get out of there.
Boy, they're not even shy to admit that the Constitution doesn't apply to them.
Yeah.
So, changing, things that are so fundamental to our democracy, like how you vote, it doesn't matter. He
really thinks he's an important person, apparently, that he can do that. I mean, this whole concept, the iPads and Wi-Fi, and again, you aren't familiar with my background on these issues, but I don't think that polling places, that these voting machines, have any reason whatsoever to be connected to the internet. It's the most basic computer we have. It's a counting machine, period. I don't think it should have internet capability. Anything that can be connected and networked onto the internet is hackable and corruptible, period. There's no such thing as not. So why do we need it? All it needs to do is count the number of X's or filled in circles or chits or however it is, period. And then it's physically in the old analog way and taken to City Hall by a police officer, not a poll worker, not a campaign worker, in the trunk of their car where the bag shows up mysteriously when count numbers are getting weird. None of that. So that when you're talking about, these iPads and the Wi-Fi, my skin crawls. Why are we using iPads? Why does the internet have to be on? Why do machines have to be connected? Rick, it makes no sense. I think and Barack Obama said this, that we can't hack our elections because, first of all, we don't have a big national election, right? We have 50 little elections, and because they were at one time very analog. It was paper ballots, and you checked or you clicked or you did it. This electronic thing, I don't think the voting should ever be electronic, and never mind, not even capable of being connected to the internet.
Yeah, it certainly raises more questions than it provides answers. And, the worst part is that there was a huge lack of transparency by the governor in terms of what provisions were in place to prevent against corruption, security issues, and just, making sure that there was cybersecurity measures. The lack of transparency, I think, is what really sits wrong with people, because it creates doubt. And it certainly can help to raise conspiracy theories. So
now let's talk about your race. You're running for the New Jersey 7th Congressional District. You come from a biotech entrepreneur type of background. So tell us a little bit about your background and what is making you run and subject you, your wife, and apparently you have 3 little boys.
Yeah, that's right, Joe. Yeah.
I'll tell you, it's a tough life, to these days, right? To be in the public eye, Rick, you know this.
I do. Listen, I'm really excited and fired about this campaign. And, really this grassroots movement that we saw culminate in this election actually started in 2020 when I was the U.S. Senate nominee for the Republican Party. And I got to tell you, when I ran that race, as crazy as it was with changing the rules, I still got the highest number of votes in the history of the Republican Party, over 1.8 million. We're real excited about the infrastructure we're building on. But Joe, I got to first tell you my story. My story started 52 years ago when my father first immigrated to this country through the legal process. We didn't have much. He came here to this country with $100 in his pocket, worked 2 jobs, went and got his master's. He flew into JFK Airport, 2 feet of snow on the ground. He saw hope, he saw opportunity, and he saw freedom. I met my mother at Temple University, and the rest is history. I myself put myself through pharmacy school, became a pharmacist, and I worked overnights to put myself through law school. In fact, I spent 10 years at the FDA after law school, ran a health department, and then came back and started my own company. I truly have lived the American dream, and I'm proud of that. But what I'm most proud about is being a husband and a father. And as you mentioned, I got 3 boys. And so I started looking, what is the direction of the state of New Jersey? What's the direction that America is headed in? I think we're headed in the wrong direction. I think that you see right now with the kind of corruption, inflation, supply chain shortages, and notwithstanding the threats that communist countries that wish no good on our country have, like China, North Korea, and others, who's going to step up to be that authentic leader? Who's going to step up to make sure that parental rights are protected and that good governance starts at the kitchen table, not through educational systems? And
Right.
who's going to help to prevent against indoctrination? And Joe, that's why I'm running.
All
I
right.
understand these issues, and I'm excited about making sure that we get authentic leadership back in Washington.
All right. I have your link on my social media, folks, but quickly, where can people go to find you on net?
Go to rickfornj.com. That's RIKFORNJ.com. It's Rick Maida. Follow me on Facebook, Instagram, or whatever social thing that floats your boat.
You got it. Hey, Rick, thank you for taking time out on a Saturday morning and joining us here on the Joe Mangiacotti Show. I appreciate it. Good luck, and let's have you back.
My pleasure, Joe. Thanks so much. Would love to come back.
Awesome. All right, folks, quick break. Back on the other side from the Box Shop Middlesex Mattress Outlet Studios. Good morning and welcome to Handling Change. I'm Joe Mangiacotti along with Heidi Zizza, who joins us this week. The purchase or sale of your home or investment property could be one of the largest challenges you have, and Heidi can help you handle those challenges. Good morning, Heidi.
Good morning, Joe, and thank you for having me on the show today. I'm excited to be here.
Welcome back. I'm always looking forward to the tidbits of information you share with us. And I was thinking this week, since you had mentioned how much of a seller's market it is, that maybe we turn our attention to the buyers and you give a little advice and some tips. If you're a buyer and you're about to start looking, what are some of the things you can do to, make yourself a better candidate, because it is kind of a bidding situation, and the things you should have prepared to go out looking at property in a seller's market?
Well, first of all, you absolutely have to be prepared. And that means having a really strong pre-approval letter. And gone are the days where your pre-approval letter should just match your offer. You should show that you are pre-approved to go over and above, because that's really what you're going to have to do in this market. I haven't had a house go under contract in the last 3 to 4 months that went anywhere even near what the asking price was. In some cases, they're going $100,000 over asking. So you really need to be prepared to go highest and best and prove that you can go to that point. Buyers are ditching every contingency out there right now, and it's really making it tough for some of these buyers, for sure. It is a seller's market.
Expand on that a little bit about the contingencies. When you say they're ditching the contingencies, what does that translate to?
A lot of buyers are saying, we will buy this house as is. We will not even do a home inspection. You pick the closing date. I mean, they're literally giving everything to the seller on a silver platter. A lot of people, depending on your financial situation, I would never recommend doing this unless you were very, very financially secure. But a lot of people are buying houses without even a mortgage contingency because they want to be the winning bid. So those sellers are saying, we're going to take the cleanest deal. No chance for anyone to back out. And if they do, they lose their deposit. So it's really getting kind of cutthroat out there.
So this means going into the bidding or even the looking phase of a house with a pre-qual letter, which means you need to speak to a mortgage broker ahead of time.
You absolutely have to sit down with a mortgage broker ahead of time. You need to let them run your credit. You need to show them some of your W-2s so that they can say in that letter, not only is Joe Mangiacotti pre-approved to buy a house for $500,000, we've already done some of the background on him. We've already run his credit. We've already checked his pay stubs, and we know for sure that not only can he afford $500, but he can afford $600 or $650, whatever the number may be. You've got to show that you are a strong candidate for that house, and you've got to go in with your highest and best. In some instances, they're not even coming back to these people. Could be 27 offers on a house, and they're not even giving you a second chance to bid.
This sounds like it could be very discouraging for a buyer to enter the market. So what do they do in this case? Do they move to an area?
Pray.
They pray. Do they work with someone like yourself to really narrow down the location and the properties to look at? And do you have to, keep that chances are it could go for over the asking price when you're setting up the list anyway?
Oh, I prepare people for the fact that, if your maximum is 700, let's not look at everything that's 700. Let's look at things that are 600. Let's look between 600 and 700, because the chances of something that's at 700 going for 700 are slim to none. And if that's your cap, that's not going to work for you. I'm trying to encourage people to expand their town choice a little bit, not say I only want to be in this one town, because with everything being so competitive, you need to have a little bit more on the option list.
Got it. Now, the only saving grace here, Heidi, is that if this is the second house upgrade, as we do, the starter house, and then you upgrade over 1 or 2 times, is they would be making it up on the sale end of their house. But for that first-time buyer, this is an uphill battle.
It is an uphill battle, and I don't see it changing anytime soon right now at all. Nobody in their house on the market, because what's happening is it's a seller's market. It is. I discuss this in my own household all the time, being that I'm an empty nester. My husband will say, the prices are so crazy, we should sell our house right now, but there's nothing to buy because nobody's listing their house, and that's why the prices are just so crazy. The buyer pool is choosing from such a small amount of sales that are available, listings that are available, that it's just driving the prices sky high.
All right, Heidi, great information as usual. Thank you very much for joining us for Handling Change.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Joe, and have an excellent weekend.
And thank you for joining us for Handling Change. Join us each week at 7:30 as we give you the tools to handle the changes in your life, and visit us at handlingchange.info. You can find Heidi on Facebook at MDM Realty and email her at mdmrealty@msn.com. And you can always call Heidi. Her cell number is 508-277-2032. For Heidi, I'm Joe Mangiacotti. All right, folks, welcome back to the fourth and final Saturday segment of the Saturday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show. From the Box Shop Middlesex Mattress Outlet Studios, I'm Joe Mangiacotti. I was glad to have Rick join us. Interesting take on the election down there. And I really think that the GOP should have had some of those same procedures in place, and maybe threw a little money and some energy into that. Anyway, 508-871-7000 lines are open and available, and as well as the text line is, folks, and that is the 617-297-8388 number. And yeah, I did get, I got your text 845 on what might be in the diary, and that's interesting. I won't share it on the air now, but that could be embarrassing for a sitting president. So 508-871-7000. All right, Arizona, and I made reference to this earlier. If you haven't seen this story, you've got to check it out, because, I mean, it is just disgusting. It's disgusting, and it shows what's going on, right? These emails that have come out when it comes to the school board, National School Board Association, a couple of their rogue members, they were actually worked with the White House to put that letter out that caused the Attorney General to issue the memo to tell FBI and other agencies to work with the local officials to investigate and go after these parents as domestic terrorists. Now it comes out that there is, in Scottsdale, Arizona, they're demanding, more than 600 parents are demanding the resignation of the school board president, and it's because they were keeping dossiers on parents, and to the point where they hired a private investigator to write down the plates of parents showing up at the school board meetings and then running background checks, credit, criminal, divorce proceedings, financial statements, and this all came known because of a little mistake that the school board president sent a screenshot, and he was trying to make his point over something. But in the screenshot, there was the link in the background or on the screen to a public Google Drive, which they entered in. Parents entered it in to find this file that had all of this information on parents. It appears to have kept a dossier on 47 parents who dared to speak out against his policies at the school board meetings. Again, Social Security numbers, background checks, divorce papers, mortgage documents, trade certificates, screenshots of their social media posts. This was in retaliation for speaking out and not blindly accepting and doing what they're told. So now over 650 parents have signed a petition demanding that the SUSD, and that's the school board, the territory, the regional governing board, Jean-Michel Greenberg resign in the wake of the scandal. And what's interesting is the father of the school board president was hiding in a motorcycle helmet and stuff, so people didn't know who he was. And he was able to move around and walk around, and they didn't know it. And for some reason, he had body camera. And this is the other thing. They were using body camera in the audio, unknowingly recording and taking people. So actually cut 6, Russ, because Mark Greenberg, who is the father of Jan-Michael Greenberg, the board president, had this camera going on his jacket or whatever, and he's talking to the parents, and he tells them that he hired the private investigators and that they're there. We'll play the audio from cut 6.
Doctor, how are you?
Okay. I'm like on motorcycles. How are you?
Hey, the lengths that you have to go to not be recognized. It's like wearing an aquarium on your head.
I know who you are.
It's just not a lot of fun.
Is that what I think it is? And I'm like, I don't want to be like.
But they don't like having their picture taken. I'll tell you that.
Actually, I got to tell you that she already complained.
Who?
Amanda Ray already complained to the police that she's worried about you being here and that you have threatened her in the past.
She doesn't know that's me, though. So she was like one of the first cars here, and I pulled my motorcycle directly facing her car. But she has no idea that I even have a motorcycle. And I've covered up my license. She's just a lunatic.
And you have the best mask of all. I know.
I did. Thank you so much for doing this.
Oh,
yeah, this is not fun. But I'll tell you.
Sorry.
I mean, if the district, it's not about Jan-Michael. It's if the district falls into their hands.
Oh, yeah.
It'll be the end.
Yes.
Oh, here we go. The Gadsden flag. Don't tread on me. Look, this is good, though, that they get this kind of publicity. Somewhere around here, we have a private investigator who's writing down all their plates.
Yes. That you hired?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I had our law firm do it so that it's protected, so that we can get the information.
It is. I knew that was going to be a way to identify it. It didn't matter if you were red one.
Wow. So let's unpack a couple things there. So he hired a private investigator through the law firm so they would be protected. I'll tell you what, we're going to have some actual private investigators from the Licensed Private Detectives Association of Massachusetts probably join me Monday and get their perspective on this. And I'd rather them chime in than me speak as a PI at this point about how that, and when you get cases like that and what you do take and don't take or should take and shouldn't take, what you're allowed to do, who you're allowed to investigate, how you're allowed to investigate them. But he's saying, she had no idea that it's me. So he's hiding behind this. And it's not about Jean-Michel. That's his son. What was it? If it falls into their hands. So he's afraid of what could happen if it falls into his hands. Now, you know what he's thinking, right? He's right up there with Stark in the smelly Walmart shoppers type of mentality here. That, again, the elitists, they know that we're just a bunch of maroons who, as Bugs would say, we don't get it. And we need them to tell us how to take care of our children. As a matter of fact, we should just turn them over to them and let the government educate them and teach them everything. In school, growing up school, you went for one thing. That was the 3 R's. And you went to church for another thing. And in home, you had another thing. and that's the way it should be. And then I have to start thinking about this. If you have all of these school boards and all of these members, and it gets to the point you're saying, why do we need all of these school boards and all these members? Because how often do we change what's being taught? Facts don't change. History doesn't change. I know what you're thinking. Well, history changes every day. It becomes history. I know that. What I'm saying is the curriculum for history should be the curriculum. It is what it is. This is history. This is what happened, period. And then, yeah, sure, as you get into older grades, you can get into more of the reasons and political leanings and what was going on. And math is math, right? Math isn't racist. It doesn't change. 1 + 1 will always be 2, regardless of Common Core or how many ways you go around it. So why do we need all of this, all of these people? And it's back down to these little fiefdoms of power. And you hear what he says. It's not about his son. It's about the other people getting their hands on it. Other people having control or say into the education. And you can tell where he's coming from, because what did he say? Oh, here comes the dads with the "don't tread on me." Now, it's not in the video. You can go watch that clip of the video in the article posted on my Facebook page, but you don't see you don't see, the camera doesn't show it. He's wearing body camera and pulled the audio from it. But it makes you think, well, some of these parents, dads have showed up and they have the "don't tread on me." I'm assuming they probably have some American flags on their sleeves or jackets, and maybe some other patriotic thing, maybe some veterans hats. I don't know. But you can tell it's bothering them. It's bothering them that you've got working class patriotic parents who are not happy with the curriculum that's being forced down their kids' throats and trying to do it behind the parents' back. How do we know this? Well, we know this because we saw the mistake made on their part when we went into lockdown and remote learning, and parents got exposed to what was being taught. So they sent out the letters and said, hey, you know what? You can't be in the room when the classes are on Zoom. Can't be in the room. We don't want you to hear what we're teaching. Which is going to, of course, make every parent go, excuse me? Of course I can be in the room. What are you talking about? So the Scottsdale Independent first reported on these Greenberg files in an extensive opposition research style dossier. And the parents spoke up at the school board meetings on issues, and they ranged from the COVID-19 restrictions, which is interesting because we had some members of the cabinet and political higher echelon people removing their masks at these meetings. And when asked, why are you removing the masks? They're saying, because people can't hear me well. And these are the same people who are telling children and teachers that they have to wear a mask all day. But it's more important that, this political hack is heard in some cabinet meeting or staffing meeting than it is for teachers to be heard in the classroom or children to be heard in the classroom. Just tangent there. I know I went off track for a moment, but this doesn't make any sense. Now, Greenberg reportedly revealed the digital dossier stored on the Google Drive in August when he sent the screenshot to Kim Stafford. He was trying to prove his point on something. And the drive shows 4 people tied to the account. So you got Greenberg, the president's father that we just heard. He's the owner of the drive. Now, Jean Michael is the son. Person with the email address belonged to the school board, governing board member, Zachary Lindsay, and a Scottsdale woman, and she hasn't been identified yet. Now, either the father, Mark Greenberg, or the school board responded to requests for comment here, but the National School Boards Association, of which it appears the school district is a member of did not respond either. John Michael Greenberg is saying, I categorically deny having anything to do with this. He told the Independent, which is the newspaper out there, that the email address is a personal address of his, but it has currently 160,000 unread emails. And despite Greenberg's denial, the active link to the site became private around 11 a.m. on November 9th, after the Independent called the family. So it was a public drive, and because it was in that screenshot and the email he sent, anyone with it or access, right? They didn't click a link that you just enter. You could see it in the screenshot. They entered it in to the address bar and it opened up. But after the call, they turned it to private, so you couldn't do that anymore. The dossier included 18 folders marked CAN Network. That's a reference to Community Advocacy Network. That's a group of parents that formed last year advocating for in-person learning and against the mask mandate. And it clearly refers to the parents as, quote, wackos. So the parents who want in-person teaching, the thing that you're hired to do, that you're paid to do, that you're supposed to do because it's your job, and being against mask mandates, because making a child who has like zero risk here wear a mask all day is causing actually more harm and damage to them in their health. But that you're a wacko if that's the position you took. So the Community Advocacy Network is part of what they were keeping a dossier on. The dossier all includes video showing a man taking photographs of parents and children in the hours before a school board meeting. And that's part of the video or the audio that we just heard, where he says, hey, somewhere around here we have a private investigator who's writing down all of their plates. They don't know it's me. I covered up my license plate, he tells them, because he's got the jacket and the helmet on. So he can also keep an eye on these wacko parents. Now, there's petition out there, right? The parents have been signing for this Greenberg's immediate termination. And the guy, if he had any sense of dignity, he would resign. He would resign. That's the right thing to do. There is no legitimate purpose for any of these background checks. Deeds, marital records, financial documents, professional certificates, and more are being curated, stored, and shared in such a manner by Greenberg. And Amanda Ray, an administrator of the CAN or the CAN Facebook group, argued that Greenberg had engaged in cyber stalking. Doesn't seem like a far reach, does it? Is that a far reach for people who hire private investigators and keep dossiers on parents they consider to be wacko? Where by any other matrix, you would probably just consider them good parents. So she accused him of cyber stalking, and according to Arizona statutes, Section 13-2923, anyone found guilty of cyber stalking can be fined up to $1,000 per infraction and sentenced to a year in jail. But you have a Arizona rep out there, Joseph Chaplick. He's calling for Greenberg's resignation as well. He said, as a Scottsdale parent and a member of the community, I'm calling for the resignation of Jan Michael Greenberg. The evidence of his cyber stalking and spreading of an enemies list should be the last straw for his fellow board members. and I expect them to join me in this call. You see, the board are elected, so you can't fire them. They can resign. You can go through recall. You can bring the pressure for them to resign. And of course, you can vote them out, which is the most important thing for those people in Arizona to remember. Shirley Sapphire, a mother of 3, and a candidate for Arizona Superintendent of Public Instruction, also called for the resignation. She said they're not on the same side as us. She recalled a hot mic situation in which Greenberg said, Jesus effing Christ, you people, twice during parents' public comments. So you know he's a little frustrated there. It always comes back to this, right? That, and they're educators. They're educators. They're supposed to know how to use their words, and they're supposed to stay calm, and they're supposed to follow the rules. And they're supposed to play nice. Isn't that one of the first things they teach us? Play nice in the sandbox. Share your toys. Don't push Sally down. Don't call people names. Don't talk behind their backs. They're worse than any 6th grader. She said, I think he knows his time is up. I think come tomorrow, we're going to hear something. There's going to be some criminal investigation. I hope our attorney general does something about this. He needs to. Speaking of which, Arizona Attorney General Mark Barnovich did not respond to Fox News' request for comment. And Sapphire noted the stalking behind Greenberg files, and she added, and we're the domestic terrorist. And that's the great point there, Sapphire. Isn't that seems to always be the case? You can usually be pretty confident that whatever the alt-left radicals are accusing you of, it's exactly what they're doing. Whether you're talking about this, accusing parents of being domestic terrorists and wackos, when the real wackos and terrorists are the people keeping dossiers and spying on you and collecting your data on you for no legitimate reason. Or you're accusing the presidential candidate running against you for being a Russian operative when you're the one in bed with the Russians and using Russian operatives and fictitious dossiers and lies to distract from your own criminal activity, which is really what happened with Hillary, right? It got away from her. I mean, this whole Russian collusion thing and the hotel and the prostitutes and all that, that was just supposed to help distract from her criminal activity with the emails and Benghazi and everything else. Not to mention the graft and money machine that the foundations become. I mean, you saw in the email straight up, right? They want you to speak or talk. Well, did that donation come in yet? Well, sitting as Secretary of State, leveraging her position to build a financial empire. I mean, this is just, all this. We've talked about this. Point is, folks, this story out of the Arizona school board, it's not going to go away quietly. It is disgusting. We saw this happen in Virginia, where parents want to have a say, and because part of that say is get rid of CRT. It's not a curriculum. It's not something we want. But the attorney general's family, his son-in-law, is making millions selling the CRT curriculums to the school boards, and they've weaponized the DOJ. And it's laughable that Biden is saying that the DOJ under his administration will be independent and that he'll be transparent. He's transparent. He is not transparent at all. He calls a lid on the day, and that just means when you call a lid, that's you're done. Like there's no more. You're not going to see the president and no questions. He's gone to bed at noon. vacations back to his beach house that we just spent $450-something thousand in change to put a wall around his beach house, while our southern border is wide open and the materials for the wall are rotting in the desert down there. And it's costing us American taxpayers $5 million a day not to build the wall. This is bizarro world by all matrices here. But this is actually going to wrap up the Saturday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show from the Box Drop Middlesex Mattress Discount Studios. Means I'll be back tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. for the Joe Mangiacotti Show. Mike Wade comes in at 7 a.m. We switch over to Conservatively Speaking till 9. Then Peter Blutz picks us up at 9 o'clock to noon tomorrow. And then I'll be back Monday for the second Monday show. That's right. Don't forget, if you haven't heard, right, the Joe Mangiacotti Show is now Saturday, Sunday morning, and Monday afternoons at 1 o'clock. Follow me on all of our social media platforms at Joe Mangi Show. We're now streaming the show live on YouTube, my personal Facebook page, and my Twitter account. So you have many ways to watch the show and listen to the show online. Thank you very much for joining us. You have a fantastic Saturday. Teddy and I are going to go grab some breakfast with some friends, and we'll be back tomorrow morning. Russ, you have a great day.
You too, Joe.
All right, folks, take care.
WACE